What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to NBA trade season. In this video, we're going to be tackling the Utah Jazz. And now, I try to keep these videos very realistic. Like, have the Jazz been involved in a ton of trade rumors? Not necessarily, but I feel like they very much could be. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how they could better position themselves for the rest of this NBA season. Let's get into it. And that brings us back here to the spreadsheets. It always brings us back to the spreadsheets for those of you that aren't familiar with my channel. I usually like to build out a lot of these spreadsheets to kind of help articulate and visualize everything that we're talking about in these videos. And now the goal of today is to keep things as realistic as possible, help the Utah Jazz better position themselves for the rest of the season. Now, the Utah Jazz have been pretty bad this year. That was to be expected, right? They're kind of in this rebuilding process, like semi-rebuilding process, right? Like they got a couple interesting young pieces in the Walker Kessler, Keontae George here. And so I think it's interesting, right? They had a couple of first-round picks this last year that haven't been great, and we'll talk about those. But obviously the big play that they have this year is the 2025 draft class. It's supposed to be a very, very good class, in my personal opinion as well. It looks incredibly talented, and they've got a couple picks this year. So what I want to do is I want to help them even better position themselves for this next draft class, right? Because this season, they're not going anywhere, right? We're not trying to necessarily get better, but we want to just help position ourselves, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down the entire roster. We're going to talk about their salary cap situation a little bit. We're going to talk about their giant draft pool that they have, and then we're going to go over to Fanspo and make some actual trades and everything that try to better position this team. And so kind of the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the Utah Jazz is that, again, we're not trying to win games here. And it's also important to not just tear down this roster completely, because it'd be really easy to say, okay, trade Walker Kessler, trade John Collins, trade Colin Sexton, trade, I don't know, everybody on this team, right? And just completely tear it down, try to get the best odds possible for the first overall pick. That's not always the best way to go about things. Like the Utah Jazz, first of all, they try to win games for the most part. Are they putting in a ton of effort to put out the best team possible this year? No, they're not trying to trade to win more games, but this team takes a ton of pride in the culture that it has. You guys will hear me say constantly, the Jazz, Pacers, and Heat, they're very much about winning basketball games, and they're very much about, these are the types of people we want in our organization, this is how we want to go about things, and there's no surprise that this team is often in the playoffs more often than not. They're at one of those little low points now, but they usually don't stay down for very long. So is the goal to probably get a Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper? Yes, absolutely. But we don't want to tear this team down completely. We want a landing pad. I reference kind of that term a lot in these videos. We want a landing pad for whichever of those three players we get. We presume that we're going to get one of them, at least we hope so, right? And so we don't want them to come to a bare bones team where there's just nobody to help them out right away. That's not helping your young player find success. Now, Lauri Markkanen's not going anywhere, right? We know that he literally cannot be traded this year because of when he signed the extension and everything. Utah loves Lauri Markkanen. He likes being here, so they're like, we're going to hold on to him. And I think that that's great because you can add any of those dudes I just talked about, and already they're not going to be the number one option on the team. It's going to be Lauri Markkanen next year. So already that just gives them a nice little landing pad, right? Walker Kessler, I'm not going to trade him in this video. Walker Kessler's been really, really good. That's just a great center option to have on the team as well for any of those three guys. Awesome, right? And so it's important that we keep somewhat of a structure of a team here because that's going to help us be better positioned going forward, right? Remember when they drafted Donovan Mitchell? He wasn't even a starter on that team when he first got drafted, and they had some other solid players on the team that could kind of take the load off of him, and it made his transition a little bit easier, right? And so that's kind of what we want to do again. If we can talk about some of the other things in here, we can talk about the salary cap situation. They've got $24 million in cap space before they even hit the luxury tax. This team is incredibly cheap. You'll see it here. I mean, Lauri Markkanen's contract is going to get a lot more expensive after this year, but regardless, this team is extremely cheap right now. So nothing much to worry about in that department. We don't want to be a luxury tax team either. There's no reason to pay any more for this team than you have to, right? So I don't think that that's necessary. When you look at the draft pick collections, I've noted some picks not shown have protections. The picks that I list here for these videos are tradable assets, essentially. What are things that we can actually move? And so technically, I think it's the Thunder have the Jazz's pick, but it's top 10 protected or something. So they're going to be getting that pick back. So in all actuality, we should have 3 first-round picks this year. These 2 aren't as great, but we can get some back-end first-round talent that are pretty cheap to fill out the back end of the roster, and this is a deeper draft class. So we absolutely take that, right? We want to have more picks here. Maybe we can package these together to some championship level team or a team with championship aspirations and go get something else. So we want to hold on to those. We might not need them all, but you never know. The year after that, we don't have a ton. 2027, we got picks on picks on picks. 2028, we got a couple. 2029, you'll notice a lot of them are the Cavaliers and Timberwolves because of the Gobert and Donovan Mitchell trades. And then it starts to teeter off a little bit after that. But still, it's important to know that we have a lot of draft picks. And this video is also not going to be about adding a ton more draft picks to this, right? You guys will hear me say in my videos, just because you have all the draft picks in the world, Oklahoma City Thunder, doesn't mean it's exactly a good thing. What do I mean by that? If you have, say, right here, how many draft picks do we have just right here? Let's draw it out. So through 2029, because they only have first round picks up until then. There's 12, right? You're not going to draft 12 of these players and keep them on your roster. You just won't, right? Because there's more guys here that you already want to keep. And so that just doesn't make any sense. So a logical person that's trading with the Jazz is going to say, hey, you're not going to use all these picks anyway. They're going to become quite literally useless to you, so you can't use them all. But the goal that I have in mind here is that if we can push the assets out far enough, we can start building a young team now with the picks that we have early on. Hopefully we hit on the 2025 class, we do well after that, and then we've got all these assets moving forward so that when the right complementary player becomes available, we can almost just overpay to get them. Kind of like what we're hearing the Thunder might do with Cam Johnson. Like, they might just throw former lottery pick, 2 first-round picks at him. And is that really worth it for Cam Johnson in a nutshell? Not necessarily, but nobody blinks an eye because the Thunder have all the assets and they have to use them anyway. So that's kind of the attitude I want to attack it with today. If we can break down the roster itself, first player, John Collins over here, the most expensive player in the team. He does have a player option at the end of this season, which I wouldn't be surprised if he opted out of. He can definitely get more money than he's getting. John Collins has been a pretty efficient and highly impactful player for the Jazz ever since he got here a year ago. So, I mean, he does a little bit of everything, right? He can step out and hit a little bit. Obviously, the lob threat, he can play both forward and the center spot pretty well. Like, he's a very talented basketball player at the end of the day, and I feel like people kind of forget about him because it's Utah, right? And it's a whole thing, but extremely talented player that can help somebody. Do we necessarily need him? No, not really. Do I think Lauri Markkanen's better when he can play more of the 4 spot than the 3 spot? Look, these positions are pretty interchangeable at this point, but I'd rather him play this other one, and I have another more dynamic player here at the other wing spot. So that's how I'd like to build it. Plus, if the goal is to get an Ace Bailey or Cooper Flagg, then there you go, right? Then that's kind of where that guy fills in anyway. Colin Sexton, scoring machine, right? Effort, 150% every single night. Defensively, every analytic will tell you he's still horrible defensively, right? And that's unfortunate, but his effort does make great defensive plays sometimes, so that's something to keep in mind. He is a very elite basketball scorer. He's very efficient from everywhere on the floor, can play make a little bit, which is great. So somebody that needs a score, they can use him, right? I don't personally think we need to keep paying him at this point because we've got guys like Keontae George that we want to put the ball in their hands just a little bit more, and I just think it'd be nice to get something for him because I don't necessarily see him needing to be in the long-term plans for this team. I don't know if he's a great, like, team winner in his current state, but he's going to be valuable to someone that just needs a score, right? Lauri Markkanen, obviously borderline, like, all-star talent all the time. You guys know how good Lauri Markkanen is. I don't need to explain that to you. Jordan Clarkson, he's your spark plug 6-man guy, right? That's what he is at this point. Efficiency's been pretty rough this season. Obviously, he's got the games where he just can't fucking miss a shot ever, and other games where, he misses some things. So are we going to try to sell him off to somebody that could maybe use him? Sure, right? Maybe it's us even just taking back a contract that another team can't use, and then they're like, we'll at least just roll the dice with Jordan Clarkson. It's not the worst idea to have a guy like Jordan Clarkson on a playoff team just because he could literally win you a game by himself because he might just go off for 40 at any single point. So not the worst thing to have. Taylor Hendricks, if you can believe it, is the 5th most expensive player on this team on a rookie deal, which is pretty crazy. He unfortunately had the gruesome injury this last year, so we don't have a lot of intel on Taylor Hendricks yet. He just hasn't played a ton of NBA minutes, but we're going to be hopeful with him. He's got a team option. We'll be picking it up, is what it is. Cody Williams, 10th pick in this draft. I believe he's the 10th pick. And look, I said going into this year, Cody Williams, I wasn't thrilled about him. I was like, I see the potential. I'm like, I totally see the potential. I'm like, I think we're a long ways from the potential though. And Utah, they're a team that they're patient, they're good at development and stuff. And so I didn't blink at all when they picked him, especially because it was a positional need. But he has been, and you guys know I don't like to call NBA players like bad or horrible or anything on this channel. I just, because there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? To like situation and like the play style and things like that. And it's just one hard to like adjust to playing in the NBA and everything. Like there's a lot that goes into being a rookie, right? But he has been a pretty subpar player this year. He hasn't been very good. That's probably the best way for me to say we can be adults about that, right, without being mean. He hasn't been very good so far. Keontae George, what a surprise he's been for the Jazz, because these like combo guards, I never see them actually just like filling in as like a point guard, and that's what he's done pretty well. Like he's putting up good scoring numbers, pretty good passing numbers and everything. He is statistically the worst defensive player in basketball, which is kind of a problem between these two right here, right? It's a bit of a problem, but we don't care too much about that right now, right? Like we're in our second NBA season. We're not tripping about that. We've got a young, dynamic, like athletic guard that can go score, and he's getting his teammates involved in everything. Does he still make a lot of dumb decisions? Yes, he's a young basketball player. That's totally fine. But overall, like this has been a great find so far, right? So we definitely want to keep him around and doing that. Svi Mikhailuk, where do I have Svi right now? I have him over here as a shooting guard. He probably more of a small forward, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. He's shooting the ball like league average this year. He's mostly just a floor spacer or something like that. If he was on a better team, I actually think he'd be a lot better because he's like a sneaky good athlete and stuff too. I just like his game. His contract isn't guaranteed after this year either, so despite it being a 4-year, teams can terminate it after the season if they want to. So really, it's a pretty tradable asset. Patty Mills, he's the vet on the team. We probably don't want to get rid of him. Ju Zhang over here, he's been starting for them recently because Collins has been hurt. Good 3-point shooter. Defense is nothing to write home about, but 6'5" guard that can shoot a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see if he sticks around on this team or not. I have no reason to get rid of him necessarily. He's a cheap guy and he gets pretty good production for his value. So there we go. Kyle Filipowski, another rookie for them, did end up starting quite a few games for them. Was not doing much in that time. He did have a couple of good outings, though, I should say that. But teams literally were not guarding him whatsoever. I'm not the biggest fan of his game. I just don't think it's like an NBA translated game because like he can't really like guard down low, and most of his offense is him like set shooting from outside. So he's like a Brook Lopez that doesn't play defense. And I don't know. I don't want to like insult players, but he feels a little bit soft to me. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. Walker Kessler, we talked about it, team option after this year. Defensive monster, makes almost every shot he takes. He's one of the league leaders in field goal percentage and stuff like that. Very, very quality center that you can have on your team for a long time. Love Walker Kessler. Drew Eubanks. He jumps and dunks the ball sometimes, so good for Drew Eubanks. His contract is actually not guaranteed ever, so this is actually a guy that if we need to, we can just release at any single moment, and we all know Drew Eubanks isn't the most talented player in the world, so, just something to keep in mind for that. Bryce Sensabaugh has actually put up pretty good counting numbers for this team at the wing position, and it's going to be an interesting development story. Every advanced analytic tells you the team gets considerably worse when he gets on the court, and that's because he's not the best decision maker out there, and he seems lost in his rotation a lot of the time, but again, young player, it's fine. The counting numbers overall, though, are interesting enough to where it's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with him. It's not like we're going to be good anytime soon anyway, right? So there you go. And then the other rookie, Isaiah Collier, the other first round pick. It's been a rough year for him as well, man. Sorry for you Jazz rookies, man. It's been rough this year. He's had some decent outings in the G League, but offensively he has been close to the bottom, and defensively he's right down there as well, towards the bottom, and so it's just has not been a productive season for the kid whatsoever. Do I think he could turn into something? I think he's an interesting physical prospect in and of himself because he's pretty bulky and pretty athletic, but I don't know. I think when you have trouble reading the game and you can't shoot at the point guard position, it's like, and look, like you can develop into anything. Like I think any of these guys can turn out and be just fine, right? It's just in college, like you couldn't really figure out the game at all. And so I don't know. That just leads me to believe you're not going to figure this out either. But that's just me turning in a scouting report, right? And saying, hey, something to think about, right? If you think you can take it on, which the Jazz, they typically like those challenges, good for them. right? Totally fair. Totally fair. So, okay. What do we want to do then? I'm thinking some of the names up top, like John Collins, probably a name I want to move here. I'm thinking Colin Sexton, I want to move. Jordan Clarkson feels like a really easy one that we should try to move. Somebody will probably take him. As for everyone else, it's kind of up in the air. And these are three of our more expensive players, too, so we can save a little bit of money. We can get some draft picks back for him or something, or maybe some other young prospect that we could try to develop at like a wing position, because the wing is really weak for us right now. So, I don't know. Let's go over to Fanspo over here. You know, we love Fanspo, and let's start trying to figure things out. So, again, I don't prep these things beforehand, like, at all, right? I just kind of jump into these things and start thinking, because I want you guys to be able to see, like, the entire thought process with things, right? Because I think that that's important. The guy I would like to try and trade first is Colin Sexton, because I think he's going to be the most interesting to a particular team, and I'm going to bring in the Orlando Magic here. And I know, Magic fans, what a season, right? This has been a fun one. If your NBA team isn't good this year, be an Orlando Magic fan or something, just because, like, it's fun to see how hard they hustle and everything. Paulo Banchero, at the time of recording this, by the way, I'm recording this on Saturday. For those of you that don't know, I'm traveling for business over this next week. A team needs me to come out and help them out with some things, and so pretty exciting stuff at the end of the day, but I am bummed that I won't be around the whole week to record any videos, so I'm very sorry about that. But anyway, Magic fans, Paulo Banchero just came back. He had a great game. The Bucks literally just, like, didn't guard him the whole game. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Milwaukee? Like, they're just letting him tee off like he's not, like, an all-star NBA player. I don't know. Because, like, he was not moving very fast. It was the weirdest, like, highlights for me to watch. Like, he's not really doing anything. He's just, like, jab. And then they just, like, back off completely. Pull up in your face. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's Banchero. Dude's pretty damn good. So, I don't know. But we all know the Magic have had trouble with shot creation, right? They don't really have a ton of... They really don't have any shot creators on this team. Like, if I'm being honest with you, like, Wagner and, like, Paulo Banchero put up a lot of points, but it's off of, like, isolation type things where it's like, okay, like, none of my other teammates are going to get involved with this. I'm just going to have to, like, out-muscle you and, like, things like that. We need somebody that can, like, create some space, create some attention, get other people involved and stuff, and Colin Sexton seems like a no-brainer for them. The Anthony Simons trade makes a lot of sense to me as well. I know we've talked about that a lot on the channel, but I want to explore something like this. So Colin Sexton, send him over to the Magic. They get a new starting point guard that can shoot the ball and stuff and get other people involved. The defense of him does not fit the Orlando Magic, but you know what does is the effort and heart. So you get enough other good defenders around him, it's going to elevate his defense as well. You know, he's going to be locked into the system and everything. I'm almost positive you're going to get good defensive numbers out of him. Like, I'm guessing above average. Like, I'm being so serious about that. I truly think that you will. This just seems like a team that really has things figured out in that department. So Colin Sexton goes there, you get a score. Cool. He's not that expensive either, which is really, really nice. Like, this is below average for his type of player. So cool. You can experiment. If you don't want him long term, not a big deal, right? Who are you trading back? You definitely send back Cole Anthony there, because you just don't need Cole Anthony. He hasn't had the most efficient season ever. Utah can mess around with him, though, and see if they want to do anything with him, right? Again, we're not going anywhere right now anyway, so let's mess around with a young Cole Anthony and see what we can do with him. The next guy that I'm going to throw in, it's the typical trade. We're going to send Jet Howard over as well. Now, this trade could be done with first-round picks or something like that for a Colin Sexton, but I'm going to say right now that young player Cole Anthony, former first-round pick in Jet Howard, and the fact that that first-round picks just aren't as easily traded as they once were, right? We saw Dennis Schroeder go, who better player than Colin Sexton, for no first-round picks. The market standard has been set, right? That's the market standard. So I'm thinking you send over Jet Howard, who, you know, like, hasn't really gotten a ton of burn with this team or anything, and, you know, I've got my thoughts on maybe he should be, and that the team could probably do a little bit better to scheme for him, but overall, we're happy with the Magic's performance. I think you can just send over a couple of seconds, honestly, for this. Like, I truly think that's all you have to do. So we send over, let's just say, because we don't have as many 2026 assets, you're going to send us this 2026 second round pick over here. You can even keep your 2025s. Actually, you don't need both of them. So you know what? Give us this Boston or Memphis one right here. You trade it over to us right here. This trade, I'm almost positive, works, right? Beautiful. This is the first trade right here. So Colin Sexton comes on over, and you know what? we can do something else for this too, because we don't need to take on the extra player. We can give them something else in this because they have the cap space for it as well. We can send them, who do we want to send them? We're going to send them Svi Mikhailuk because this is a lengthier wing with the potential to be a really good shooter, right? Like we were talking about, you put him on a better team and he could potentially be a really good floor spacer for you. They're looking for guys like that. I think that actually makes some sense right here. Again, they can take on the salary. It's not a big deal right here. So they get Svi Mikhailuk, and if they don't like him after this year, they can cut him, or they can use him in a trade this offseason. This is a very dynamic trade piece right here. So this alone, I think that that's great. I think that that's good for both teams right here. We save a little bit of money, and we go from there. So if we go back over to here, Colin Sexton is off the team. We then take, where is Svi? We take Svi off right here. So now we have Cole Anthony on the team, and we acquired Jet Howard over here. And so now we have to adjust our depth chart a little bit to give us an idea. So Svi is off the table, Colin Sexton's off the table. Let's move Jordan Clarkson to right here, and then I'm gonna move Juzang over here. I guess he's more of a 2, isn't he? So we'll do that. We'll move these guys up, and again, I keep this in so that you guys can see the whole thought process. So let me know if you ever don't like this at the end of the day. I don't know, you can let me know. So I'm gonna say that Cody's more so the last one, and Jet Howard comes in here. We can use the wing and mess around with him and see if we can find a shooting wing out of him. I like it. I like it a lot. And then we move these guys down in the depth chart, and we have Cole Anthony here as a backup point guard. Cool. Okay, and then we've also got the second-round picks now. So what second-round picks did we just acquire? We got a second-round pick, Boston or Memphis, and then another second-round pick, Detroit or Milwaukee in those years. I'm not going to write them down here. We'll look at it at the end or something like that. But know that we picked up a couple of seconds along the way that we can use in the coming years. So because we don't have any second-round picks for those, so we can package those with other picks and maybe go get something or move up in the draft a little bit. Cool. I like that. I like this already. So now, what's the next thing we want to do? The next thing I want to do is probably move John Collins, because Clarkson will be easier. So let's do Collins first. Who could use a big? A lot of teams could use a big, right? Cleveland could use a backup center. That doesn't make sense, though. It's not going to be any of these teams, most likely. It's not going to be the Magic, the Bucks, no. The Pacers, no. The Heat. Okay, let me cook for a second. So there's a world. There's 100% a world where the Jazz become the conduit to make the Jimmy Butler trade happen. So I know I was reading some stuff. Shout out to people in the Discord, by the way. It was very much appreciated that you guys were sharing information with me, that Bradley Beal had somewhat said, like, these are the only teams I'd play for. Like, that's not like a direct report, though, so I'm not completely buying that. But the Utah Jazz were not on his list, right? Wasn't on his list. But what we really could do, like, I'm doing some very quick math in my head. We send Jimmy Butler over to the Suns. Bradley Beal comes over here to Utah, and I'll explain it all in a second. We could send John Collins, very good basketball player, to the Heat. We could send Jordan Clarkson, good basketball player, over to the Heat. That in itself should work. That works, right? Why would we do this? It's the same reason I say in every other video. Bradley Beal's not going to help us win more games, but for 2 seasons, and again, help bolster our landing pad, and we have the money to spend on it anyway because we have a metric fuck ton of money on this team that we're just not using. We can take on Bradley Beal, right, for 2 seasons, and then you can waive him out during the third if you really want to, and he can go sign with, or buy him out, I should say, and then he can go sign with a championship team after that. But, you know, we get one of the young stud players, and they have Bradley Beal and Lauri Markkanen to play next to right away. That is an ultimate landing pad for them right there, where they're like, shit, like, this is great. Like, I can develop my game, and I've got these nice vets that are going to be guarded before me anyway. Perfect, right? That's awesome. I don't know if this will happen, though. Like, I don't know if Bradley Beal waives his no trade clause to go to Utah. And so because of that, I feel like we shouldn't do it. But I want to know what you guys think about this, by the way. So, like, go ahead. This is my reminder to like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. So if you leave me a comment, I will respond to it. By the way, I kind of want to start doing, like, a comment of the video or something like that. Like, I go to the video of the prior day and just find one and kind of shout it out or something like that. So you guys let me know if that's something that you guys want, and I might just do it. A little clarifier for the comments on a video that I had on Friday. There was a lot of people being like, ABC, I can't believe you did like a 5-team trade. These are 2 different trades. Fanspo doesn't let you like save progress and then make more trades, so it has to all show in like one deal, right? So just understand that, all right? Watch the video. I explained it there too, you dummies in the comments. I love you guys though. Keep commenting and boost my algorithm. But anyway, back to Beal. I don't know. I don't, while I like this move, honestly, for the most part, I think it's one of the better ones I've seen. I don't think it's actually going to happen, so I want to scrap it for that reason. But I don't know. Let's keep looking. Detroit, no, it doesn't make any sense. Atlanta, no, they got a Jalen Johnson. They don't need to. We're not gonna, like, John Collins isn't gonna go to a bad team. That doesn't make any sense. This needs to be like a winning team type of move, or a team that's trying to win. The Timberwolves. There's no way we could take Randall. Honestly, I don't want to take Randall either. Like, the Jazz won't probably take him on. Golden State. They're looking for winning basketball players now, aren't they? Okay, how do we make this work? $26 million. They're over the cap. Okay, they've got like all those guys on the $8-9 million contracts. So Gary Payton, that's 17 with this. We could get there with Kevon Looney, Kyle Anderson, and Gary Payton, but I don't want to take back 3 players in this. So what do I do about that is the question. What do I do about this is the question. We need a 3rd team involved in this, and a bad team at that. So that means we bring in the Washington Wizards by default right here. Sorry, Wizards fans. It's the truth. It's just the truth. Okay, so John Collins is going over to the Warriors. This is their new center. He's playing center for them, and he can step out, which is cool. He can be a lob threat. It's awesome. It's not the rim protection that you're maybe looking for, but he can get you 18 to 20 points in a given night. So that's a talent upgrade in and of itself. I'd love to see the pick and roll between him and Dennis Schroeder. That would actually be filthy. So we send him over there. We need to move Gary Payton, Kyle Anderson, and Kevon Looney. Which ones do we want to take? And who are we shooting over to the Wizards? We should probably take 2 of them back, is my thought. We can take Kevon Looney back for a year. Right? We take him back for just a year. Kyle Anderson, there's no way the Wizards take him on, so we probably have to take him on. That's not the worst thing in the world. Again, it's a vet. We don't really have a backup power forward anyway because Taylor Hendricks is hurt. That's fine. And by the way, I'll just cut Drew Eubanks to take on a 2nd player here in Kevon Looney. We send Gary Payton over to the Wizards, but they don't send a player back. They just waive Gary Payton. He can go he can go into the buyout market or something like that, and we'll just have the Warriors pay the Wizards with like a 2nd round pick to basically take on his money and waive him. That's an easy way for the Wizards to get a super quick asset. They can do that. That's super easy. What happens with us though? We traded John Collins. No, you guys got to give us one of those 1st round picks. Give us this 2028 1st round pick. You can make it top 8 protected if you want. Send that back to us right here. So we'll take this 2028 pick. And I think that this makes some sense right here. So overall, the Warriors traded some stuff they don't need, a 1st round pick that they even got to put a protection on, and it can like expand and expand to where it becomes less and less unprotected until it's not, and a 2nd round pick, and they got John Collins. That is a great win for them. What did we do? We saved a ton of money, and we picked up a 1st round pick for John Collins, which is good because 1st round picks are hard to come by, and we can kick it down the road anyway. Kevon Looney, he'll just serve as a backup center for the rest of this year. Kyle Anderson, again, landing pad, good vet to have on the team. The Wizards, they took on Gary Payton's money. They just stretch him or waive him right away or cut somebody else. It doesn't really matter. And they get a 2nd round pick just for being a part of it. So there you go. That's an asset that they didn't have before because they really don't have a ton of draft assets. I'm fine with this. I'm totally fine with this. Let's go back and adjust over here. So Drew Eubanks, we cut you. Sorry, Drew Eubanks. He can go sign with some other team. There's plenty of teams that need center help right now. So we do that. Who else did we just trade? I've already forgotten who we just moved on from. It's John Collins all the way up here. So John Collins off the team. Kyle Anderson is now on the team, which, whatever. Again, not a big deal. I can delete this over here. I can delete this. I can delete that as well. And then who else did we take on? We took on Mr. Looney over here as another center. So Filipowski moves his way down here. I think that that's fine. We put Looney as the backup center. Markkanen's going to become the 4, which is the position we wanted him at anyway. So who am I starting at the small forward now, I guess? Is it Sensabaugh? I don't know, Jazz fans, you tell me. Sensabaugh, maybe Juzang, I guess, could be an option as well, but I'm just going to throw Sensabaugh there for now, and we'll move up the rotation. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it was Juzang, but again, you guys could let me know with this. And then, obviously, Taylor Hendricks is hurt, and we'd play him over Kyle Anderson in real life, but for the time being, Kyle Anderson will be another option here. So, cool. We made the team probably worse. Well, we did make it worse at the end of the day. Maybe a little bit more like veteran depth, which isn't the worst thing when you've got a couple of young guys that you're trying to develop, especially like a Keontae George, like a Kyle Anderson will help slow the game down a little bit. That's not a slow-mo joke. It's just how that came out to be. And we've got so much cap space now. We have so much cap space. Oh my God. That's kind of crazy, actually. So last one, we got to trade Jordan Clarkson. And this feels like one where we can take on a little bit of extra salary again, just because we've got all of it, right? Where are we going to send him? Where can Jordan Clarkson be helpful? We've already used the Magic as a place to send a high-level offensive player. So what else can we do? And mind you, this is a third team or a third trade now. This is not a 5-team trade. This is a third trade that's happening. So if I see any comments about it, ooh, I might just hide y'all from the channel right there. No, I won't actually do that because it's good for the algorithm. But anyway, who needs a scoring guard, right? I know the percentages aren't great right now, so that's something we have to keep in mind. We're probably not getting a great return for Jordan Clarkson, but we just don't need him right now, especially with the team configurement that I've got right now. I've got a kind of crazy point guard and a kind of crazy backup point guard in terms of how they play. I don't need another kind of unstable offensive presence over there. So let's just find somebody else. What's going on with this? Go away. Who are we sending him to? We can't trade him to the Celtics or Knicks or anything unless we're taking back Mitchell Robinson. I just don't think that makes any sense. The Bucks, is there anything going on here? Because the Bucks are a second apron team, so it'd be hard for them to trade it. They'd have to send one of these 4 players. There's no way. No way that happens. The Pacers, that doesn't even really make sense. They've got fine backup guard play. The Heat were kind of involved for a second. We could take back a Duncan Robinson if they really want. I don't think that makes a ton of sense for them unless that gets them out of the apron. I don't know. I don't know if that makes the most sense. I wouldn't mind having Duncan Robinson on this team just for the floor spacing. Again, we could use a reliable floor spacer on this team. So maybe we'll come back to that one. Because they don't need Duncan Robinson to facilitate a Jimmy Butler trade anyway, so they could just do that. And let's presume that they're getting back like a Brandon Ingram or something like that, and they're trading Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has to get moved. Like I just don't buy the whole thing that they won't trade him. They have to move him. The Pistons, no, doesn't make a ton of sense. Well, Ivy's gone now. Is there anybody that they don't want on this team anymore? I don't think so. Like, that's not really the buy now move that they should probably be making. The Hawks, they could use a backup guard. Clarkson and Trae Young sounds like a headache to deal with. Like, that just seems like a lot of instability, unless they really want to move on from, like, a bogey or something like that. Do we think that we can help relieve some cap space for them by taking on bogey? Okay, so we'll remember the Hawks as well. So we started off with the Heat and Duncan Robinson, the Hawks and Bogey. This is otherwise going to have to be a buy now move, so I don't see any of these other teams really wanting to be involved. The Thunder, they've got enough good guard play. The Rockets, no, that's not what they need. The Grizzlies, ooh, they don't really want Marcus Smart anymore. He hasn't been able to contribute to them. We could take the money of Marcus Smart. It's the same years. You send Jordan Clarkson back. Jordan Clarkson's definitely a better offensive player. I mean, he's getting you 16, 17 a game right now. And again, efficiency's not great, but maybe you say, look, we could use another kind of creative player on this team because you really just have Ja, right? Like, nobody else is creating a ton. Like, Desmond Bane, don't get me wrong, like, scores quite a few points, and so does Jaren Jackson Jr. It's just like they're, again, kind of in that Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner category of, like, their creation is limited to a couple specific things. I determine, like, a shot creator, someone that can go get a shot from anywhere, right? And that can get their teammates involved with it as well. So Clarkson serves that purpose for them, gives them another ball handler as well. They've got Scottie Pippen to do that a little bit, so that's not a big deal. Do they really need him? I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it would help out their flexibility as well. And it seems like it's been hard to find deals for Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart would be good for our culture as well. Just he's a strong presence and everything, right? I don't mind having that in the locker room. Like, is he gonna help us win a ton of basketball games right now? No. But you know what though? Keontae George is such a bad defender. We should go for Marcus Smart just to have him in the locker room to be like, hey, man, like, we got to help you out, man. So we went and got you Defensive Player of the Year, Marcus Smart, to go learn from. I don't hate that. It's okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do the Marcus Smart trade. But if in the comments you like the Heat and or like Hawks move better, I totally support you in that, and you can plead your case down below for that. So this is what we're going to do. It's pretty simple. We send Marcus Smart over to the Jazz here. We can take on the money, and we'd like to have this presence for our young guard that we're trying to invest in right now. That's what we're telling him. Jordan Clarkson, we're going to send him over to the Grizzlies. They're going to take a shot with him, save a little bit of money, right? Good for them. They're going to send us a small pick, though. A small future pick in 2030. Just because we're taking on the extra salary. Because, look, they're going to come back to us and be like, look, Clarkson's not making his shots and stuff anyway. So we'll be like, look, we're taking the money on. So just, help us out a little bit. Marcus Smart's not helping you at all right now. You're the one trying to compete right now. We're going the right direction whether or not we keep him. So just give us a little second-round pick. It's not a big deal, right? We want him as a coach, basically. And there we go. Look at that. So what have we done? Jordan Clarkson is now Marcus Smart over here. And so I'm just going to change this to Marcus Smart. This is not the most dynamic lineup of all time, but look at this. We've saved some money overall. And what have we acquired? We've acquired a couple second-round picks, a first-round pick, and look, we're still not going to be very good this year, but we've got some support players and stuff. We've still maintained the landing pad for whatever top player we go and sign, or we go and draft this next year, a couple of players that we go and draft. We've got the flexibility to move off people, right? Oh, so this is no longer accurate. I don't need this right here, right? We've got plenty of options to be flexible with the roster going forward, which is very, very good. There's going to be some money that falls off the books and stuff right away, but overall, we've maintained the culture and we're still prioritizing like our young guys. So I like this. I like this at the end of the day. I think this could be good. Now, are the Jazz going to be that involved at the trade deadline? It's hard to say, right? They're very much of the philosophy like we only make perfect moves, right? And so we can't fault them for that, but I think this could be interesting. I think that this helps out the other teams that we were involved with as well. We get some benefit from it, so I'm excited about it. But hey, this is where I turn it back to you guys. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Enjoy the pre-recorded content. And man, I hope Jimmy Butler doesn't get traded while I'm gone. I'm trying to eat those views when they come, man. I really want them. But anyway, I appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye.